Well, see over there, frame. Over here, frame and window. One of my frames is jacked up, and so I found another frame. Some of it has rust on it, but I believe the part that I need, the half that I need, is working. And we're also going to see how the hinge is actually working on this thing. Kind of compare, since all mine are seized. So it's not in perfect shape, but it is better than my other one. And yeah, this does not open up. So I don't think they're supposed to open. I think they just are what they are. Unless this one's seized too. No one's been able to answer that question. But you can see there's a little bow out that happens right around here. It starts bowing out. So I could probably hammer that back in. Let's see how it matches up to my frame. But the biggest thing is getting these things apart. So just gonna let it sit, soak, get some oil back in there. Let that seep in. I finally found some screws that I ordered online. They're a hair long, but I mean a hair, so hopefully that's not a huge deal. But we will see. So, next thing I need to do is get this little tape out of here, which I didn't know was a tape. I knew it was thin, and I kept seeing in the pieces that I'm buying, I didn't see this piece. This piece didn't exist in the kits that I was buying. And I'm like, well, hold on. Maybe I'm not supposed to take that out. And I'm like, well, I have to take it out. It's eroded, you know? And so was talking to the guy I was ordering parts from, and he was like, oh, it's a tape that goes in there. And I'm like, that makes sense now. It's not part of the kit list because it's separate tape. So I gave him the dimensions of the channel, and he is sending out some tape with the stuff. So I'm going to pull this out. And so because of this, I do not feel like putting, tri-coat paint and epoxy sealer, primer and color, and then sealing up with clear. Like, no, I'm just going to screw myself on getting that window in there. So what I'm going to do is go back to my trusty amount of VHT I have that is an epoxy direct to metal paint, get some black in there, 2-3 thin coats, and then it's protected. Then after that, tape that off, and then do the whole outside tri-coat, full epoxy, color, clear, get this thing all working perfectly. So, and I don't think that's going to be a problem getting it to close. Again, I'll probably put some reducer in these to just get thinner coats on this one particularly. In fact, that's probably true with all the frames. I'll do thinner coats just so I'm not building up too much, especially the clear, because with the clear that I'm using, you could really lay it on and make it like super, like honey, dipped in honey. And for the frames, I am not going to do that. I'm going to try to paint it traditionally, if you will, with thinner coats. So, so that's the object. So once I get that frame off the window, I could marry it up to the frame that it's supposed to replace over here. Then we're probably in business. So, and that will kind of conclude what I'll call the major part of, well, I don't know, we'll call it phase 2 maybe. Phase 1 was breakdown. Phase 2 was like processing all these parts. So the dog lid is one of the last of those major parts. We have all the frames and the vent frames. That's the last of the small parts. And then, of course, I have things like this that need, you know, black, or they need to be sanded, of course, really cleaned up perfectly. These need to be really cleaned up perfectly. And we could process those if we want. And then we're going to go into, like, what I would say the third phase is what is all this? And one of the reasons that I bought this, I bought all my insulation for, or weather stripping for all the windows, doors, all that stuff, is, you know, do we replace this part, or do I have to refurbish this part? You know, those are the things that I'm kind of like, what's coming? I'm assuming only rubber is coming, if you will, and there's no metal coming. But those were the two pieces that I was kind of not sure about, that maybe that comes in the kit, that's part of something new. And so once that kit comes in, I kind of filter through it and go, okay, yeah, they didn't send me this, they didn't send me that, I need to refurbish this, I need to refurbish that. Then that's when I go to town. Now, the other thing I'm seeing in the catalogs online is an electronic unit that looks exactly like this, with the gears on it. Literally, if I flip this over, kind of like that one, you know, it'd have all these gears, and you could have an electric version of this without the door handle, or you use the door handle and you just pivot it like 1 inch and that's up, and pivot it down. Like, this becomes a switch now instead of an actual roll around. Not sure if that's the case or not, or if there's no handle at all. I've seen a few different types, but it looks like a direct replacement, like literally a direct replacement. And so I'm not doing anything with these parts until I kind of figure out exactly what direction I'm going, because I don't want to really do work that I don't need to do. The place that I got all the weather stripping from did not have things for these air vents, so that looks like I'll probably just be using regular, we'll call like gasket material in a tube, if you will, stuff like that. Maybe silicone, but I think there's better automotive products instead of silicone to use that would hold that stuff on. I still haven't decided whether I'm using the original heater or not. I don't even know if the original heater works or not. I know a long time ago, I think the fan was working, which I guess if the fan's working, it probably works because it's a heater. It just needs fluid going through. So, so I believe that works, but I haven't come to that conclusion yet. This is the one that goes on the firewall. There's another one that bolts to the floor, which is not what my model has. I still, you know, I went on forums and stuff, and I tried to, you know, there's 4 perfect holes right in front of my doghouse in the floor. I mean, like machined perfect. No one hand drilled these things, and no one could tell me what they are. So, you know, almost like these, you know, four perfect holes, and no one could tell me what they're from. And so I have no idea what addition or something that was in the van. In fact, let's go look. I have the van right here. Let's go take a look. Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, those looked, yeah, I could be wrong. I mean, maybe they're put in afterwards. In fact, the more I look at it, it looks like it's a little bit twisted, cocked that way. So maybe it isn't factory. So maybe someone had some kind of weird addition bolted on. I don't know. But that is a different phase that we are stepping back from right now and not dealing with. So yeah. So then after I get all these parts done, in fact, I'm probably going to pull this this rack out and process that soon. But once I get done with all these parts, I think the next thing is pulling the engine. And once I get the engine out of here, I'll keep the drive shaft, or not the drive shaft, but the rear differential I'll keep on just so I could roll the van around. I'm going to pull this and pull the drive shaft and the transmission, and then probably take that to a shop, see what's going on with that, and then just go to town on this thing. So that's kind of the update. I also found I found a steering wheel that had a full horn with the full extra half moon thing and all that stuff, and it was supposed to come with my. It said Falcon on it, which I wanted Falcon instead of Econoline. And it was supposed to come with my bench seat, and it didn't come with my bench seat. And then I got a weird answer back. And then I saw that it was for sale somewhere else. And I'm like, oh, okay. So wasn't too happy about that. And at that point, not really interested in patronizing, that kind of shit. So I found that there's an aftermarket company that has a direct bolt-on steering wheel. It's not as big as this. I think this is 17-inch and it's 14-inch. And bizarrely enough, that's like that much smaller, 14 inches. You're thinking, oh, that's way tinier. It really isn't. And probably more standard in today's world of size of steering wheels. So that's an option that I'm looking at where I could make it more modern looking, which I think is kind of a cool option. Yeah, so that's something. And then, I might sell this as is, or I might actually restore it and then sell it refurbished. So not sure, but besides filling in these cracks and restoring it, this is actually in really good shape. Solid piece. The horn button just, used to have the half moon on it and it cracked off, or someone, pulled it off, and this is metal. So they did something to, take it off. I've also found horn buttons like this without this on there, so that would work also if I wanted to refurbish this. So I got a few options that I'm kind of running around with, but in all reality, just dealing with this stuff has been enough on my plate, because I'm still working full time and dealing with life's, things thrown at me, and in this tiny little space, trying to make all this stuff happen. And you can just see it's a little bit of a cluster up here of just parts. And, I need to decide whether I'm refurbishing this or if I'm going to, one option is you could go get like a vacuum cleaner adapter. It looks exactly like it, and then modify it a little bit, and that would work just fine. So there's different options like that I'm looking at. But there's only so much time in the day. And I wasn't here last night. I was actually at an appointment after work, and my neighbors told me that between 6 and 6:30, this was filled with water to the top. There was hail coming down like this, slamming, and it was just like, terrorizing the whole area. You could see tree branches everywhere from my neighbor. And I drove home and it was sunny out. And before it happened, it was blue skies and sunny. So it's really weird how stuff switches on a dime over here in Arizona and stuff gets crazy. So maybe try to take apart this frame. Well, we have some good news. I pulled this lining out, which seems like maybe just a dried rubber. And they had it preformed, for like this area right here. This goes in there. So I'm saving some of this stuff as a template. But you can see this is all nice and gloss in here. And then towards the bottom, you know, we got a little bit of rusty action we got to get out of there. But man, this is not bad at all. So pretty easy to get out. So we're going to work on the second one here. Pretty good all the way up until that rusted area. The key seems to be just separating the sides a little bit and not stabbing yourself while you're doing it, and then just getting underneath and crawling through. Dump this. Same thing, we got nice and shiny up top, and then it gets a little bit rusted down here. You can see this is a little bit bowed in and bowed out, so I'm gonna tweak that a little bit, and then stick to the same plan. I'll get this all cleaned up, do the epoxy on the inside with the thin black epoxy, and then afterwards come back and do my normal process on the outside. All right, so we got our frames are all done, rust free, ready to go. I'm gonna see what weather's like tomorrow and dig in and see what's going on there, possibly start the painting process. You saw I had a lot of stuff out there, and I've sandblasted most of the stuff before, but I had to sandblast the new frame. And then I had to also, you know, do a few little things that were kind of missing on the old frames that I missed. So you could see that they're not all down to metal. Some stuff was either powder coated or just super whatever. It wasn't coming off, and I'm fine with that. Like, no problem. I'm going to do some sanding, see if that takes it off, and, you know, get everything prepared. But this is, I've been waiting a long time for this. Like I took these windows apart like 4 months ago or 3 months ago. And so I'm really, really excited that we're getting to this point. And so I'm going to try not to rush myself, because this is going on the outside of the car. This is some of the money shot areas. And so I'll probably, you know, not be painting tomorrow. I'll just take my time, do some sanding, maybe paint the inside of the A-frames and get that all finished. You know, just little things like that, not go crazy. I ended up taking all the hinges, because I finally saw a picture with the hinge flap open. And so I ended up taking all the hinges and throwing them in vinegar to see if that will, you know, kind of get some of the rust out of there or whatever and make these things open. Now, the other thing I could do is I could use penetrating oil, and that's great, but I do not want to do penetrating oil before I paint, because it's just going to cause havoc. So, so we're trying this first, and see if that works. I'm going to leave this overnight and see what happens there. That might help open it up, or it just cause more work. I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens. So we will see what happens on the other side. Until next time, have a great day.